What's up, my people? Today, we are talking about how to recover from gaslighting. We talk so much about what to do with gaslighting and how to respond and how to spot it and how to identify it, but we don't often talk about how to get over it, how to get past it. And that's what we're focusing on today. So while you're here, before we dive in, just hit that subscribe button. I'm getting so close to 1,000 subscribers, which I'm very excited about. And drop me a like or tell me what you like. Drop me a comment and let me know what's resonating with you. But let's dive in. So on our journey to recovery from a major episode or pattern of gaslighting, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it was a work situation, whatever it is, that journey always begins with one very important step, and that is to name it, call it what it is, and accept that it happened. Look, part of what's so complicated about being gaslit, being on the receiving end of somebody's gaslighting, is the constant second guessing yourself. Did it happen? Didn't it happen? What's my fault? What's not my fault? Look, to get to the recovery, to the healing from gaslighting, we have to just acknowledge I was gaslit in this situation. I saw reality for what it was and I let people talk me out of it. Accept it. It happened to you. Okay? There's no revisionist history that can go back and change it. It happened, right? And by accepting it and naming it, you claim it so that it doesn't have any power over you anymore, right? By accepting it and naming it, you put a stake in the ground. This happened to me. It was not my preference. It was not my choice. But you know what is my choice? How I respond and how I move forward. That's where the healing starts. So name it and accept it and decide that you are no longer going to be a victim of it. The second thing I want you to do in that recovery process is to allow some space to mourn that it happened to you. And if you're like, girl, that is very dramatic, I don't know that I need to mourn it. Look, when you wake up and realize what's really going on in a relationship where gaslighting is happening, it feels like you're waking up from a nightmare or a dream. And there's so much emotion that is baked into it. You're embarrassed. You might feel ashamed. You might be mad at yourself for not seeing the signs. You might be mad at them. Fundamentally, when we get gaslit and wake up from it and realize what's going on, it's such a moment of losing our innocence, right? Because when we are getting gaslit by people, it's people in whom we have placed our trust and our confidence. And when we realize that they're gaslighting us, we realize that that confidence and that trust was not well placed. It was violated. There's a certain amount of innocence that we have when we place trust in someone who's not trustworthy. It's a violation of our innocence, and that deserves a little space to grieve the loss of it, right? After you come out of a bad gaslighting episode or relationship, you kind of emerge a little bit older and wiser, and you have to mourn the part of yourself that was so trusting, that was so willing to go along with it, that was so willing to question your own self rather than question the person. So you can allow yourself a little space to be sad or mad or outraged or whatever it is. And all of us have different ways of processing those emotions. For me, if I'm angry at myself, at the person or whatever it is, I need to physically exercise and get it all out, right? Sometimes what I need is a good cry. I go into my bathtub, I put on some real sad music and I let it rip. Whatever it is, you gotta allow some space for you to feel the feels and walk through that doorway of emotion. And a lot of us don't want to deal with it. We just want to move on. But the problem is, if you don't process your emotional baggage and your hurt and your pain and your rage, it's like those homeless people you see like dragging all their possessions in a cart and in a Glad bag over their shoulders. Don't be like that. Let it go. Clear it out. Get fresh, get reset, reestablish, right? Move through the grief. So look, once you've named it, you've accepted it, you've grieved it, and that's not linear. Sometimes you're gonna have good days and bad days. Really, the next thing you gotta work on, the absolute most important step probably of all of this, is step 4, which is you gotta rebuild your self-trust. You have to reestablish a working relationship with your own intuition, because your intuition is always there. It is always trying to get your attention and whisper something important to you. The problem problem is we tend to dismiss our intuition. We gaslight ourselves, right? There is something in you with that person that was gaslighting. I guaranteed whoever has gaslit you, there was something in your body, mind, or spirit that was like, I don't know about this. But we talk ourselves out of it. Why? We're like, well, they're so fancy or they're so high up the corporate hierarchy. They must be right. Look at them. They're the CEO or they're the CMO or this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just a fill in the blank. That is an example of how we tend to override our intuitive sense. And look, there are ways to, sometimes we are being paranoid and sometimes we are wrong about reading a situation. But rather than override and gaslight our own self by ignoring our intuition, we can actually talk to other people, run things by them, right? Am I reading this right? What I saw was X, and that makes me think Y. Am I off base here? And talk to people, talk to a diverse set of people that you can trust, that are not all part of the same little gaslighter posse. People that are outside the circle that can look at it from a disinterested, neutral perspective, right? That's a great way to shore up your intuition. But I will tell you, the mother of all ways to reconnect with your intuition and establish that strong rapport with it and to create self-trust is to have a journaling practice. If I could shout it from the rooftops, I would get a journal and a pen. You need a journaling practice. You want to get back to a place where you can trust yourself, where you can hear your own inner voice? Get that journaling practice going. And if you're like, well, what does that mean? What kind of journal? What do I write? It doesn't matter. You can grab a little notebook that's this big and a pencil or a pen and just say, how am I feeling today? How did that conversation make me feel? What did I observe that was going on? Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Where are they right? Where are they wrong? Right? The problem with the human mind is that we are just a mad tangle of thoughts and thought patterns and habits and stories we're telling ourselves. And it all lives in a big old knot. But journaling makes you see in black and white what you really think and feel. A great question that I've heard used many times by other people, which I like to use when I'm kind of questioning myself, is this one. What am I pretending not to know? Try that one on for size, my friend. And what you want to do is just start writing. Don't question it. Don't doubt it. Don't second guess yourself. Just write. And if you're like, oh my God, I can't possibly write any of this stuff because what if somebody sees my journal and exposes it? Look, here's the thing. That may be actually a real problem. Like, I'm not dismissing that out of hand. That may be an actual issue, in which case you better find a good hiding spot for it, or do it digitally inside of a password protected note or, service that you can use that's online. There's a million online journaling tools. Password protected. There are ways around it. Do not let your misplaced fears about getting found out stop you from this vital conversation you need to have with yourself. The last thing I want you to do, step 5, is start working with an affirmation or a mantra. I don't think we call them affirmations anymore. That's very Stuart Smalley, SNL in the 90s. Now we call them mantras. But a great mantra to work with is, I trust myself to perceive clearly. I trust myself to perceive clearly. And look, if you're listening to me and you're like, I don't trust myself to perceive clearly because clearly I don't perceive well, knock it off. Just say that phrase in your mind over and over again, because what it is doing is reprogramming your brain. Because you might have a habitual pattern of self-doubt. And there's lots of different ways to interrupt that pattern, but a really powerful way to do that is pump a different thought repeatedly through your mind. I trust myself to perceive clearly. Because look what happens. If I'm pumping that message through my mind, I trust myself to perceive clearly. What that's going to do is put me in a mind frame that is going to make me feel more grounded. And from that more grounded place, I'm going to be breathing. I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to be maybe taking a minute or two before the next meeting to get centered, to repeat my mantra. And it's one of those things that just has a cascading effect that affects many things. A shift in mindset can change a life, right? You can have all the best tools at your disposal, but if you have the wrong mindset, they're not going to be available to you. You're not even going to be able to think of them or remember them. But when you change your mindset to train yourself, to trust yourself, now you're onto something. And now you're becoming bulletproof. And listen, this is not to say that you might actually be wrong, that your perceptions might be wrong. But if you say to yourself, I trust myself to perceive clearly, and you read a situation, you're getting mixed messages, then you can calmly say, I need help with this. I'm going to share my perceptions with others, check them, and they can help me correct them if they're people that are trustworthy. You know what I'm saying? So it's not to say that you shut out the world and you only listen to yourself, but it's that your primary allegiance is to listening to your own voice. And if you're confused about it, you can get input from other people. But your North Star is your own intuition. And when you build that up, you become a lot less susceptible to somebody gaslighting you. In fact, you will be able to perceive gaslighters a mile away and be like, not today, gaslighter. So I want you to work with these things. I want you to experiment with these steps. I want you to fully own that whatever happened to you, but you don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay there. So I hope this was helpful. Drop me a comment. Let me know if it was useful or what you might want to hear more or less of. I am here for you, my friend. And as always, shine on. We need your light. I'll see you next time.